Some people think the deepest betrayal happens over money. They're wrong. Sometimes it happens over respect. My name is Ethan Brooks, and on the happiest day of my younger brother's life, he introduced me to his guests with 8 words I will never forget. Don't mind him. He's just my driver. Everyone laughed. No one knew I was the reason the wedding was even happening. But before I tell you what happened that day, you need to know why I agreed to help him in the first place. Growing up, Liam was everyone's favorite. He was funny, confident, the kind of person who could make friends anywhere. I was the opposite, quiet, hardworking, always focused on school and work. My parents used to joke, Liam will make everyone smile. Ethan will make sure the bills get paid. At the time, I thought it was harmless. Now, I realized they had already decided who each of us would become. After college, I started a small logistics company with 1 used delivery van and a borrowed warehouse. The first 2 years were brutal. I worked 18-hour days. Sometimes I slept inside the warehouse because driving home felt like a waste of time. There were weeks when I survived on instant noodles and coffee, while my friends spent weekends at the beach. I spent mine delivering packages. Slowly, the business began to grow. 1 client became 5. 5 became 50. Within 8 years, Brooks Logistics had offices in 3 states and more than 200 employees. People called me successful. They didn't see the years of sacrifice behind it. Liam chose a different path. He loved expensive clothes, luxury cars, fine dining. He always believed success should happen quickly. He opened 2 businesses. Both failed. He blamed the economy, his business partners, even bad luck. But he never blamed himself. Despite everything, he was still my little brother. Whenever he needed help, I was there. I paid off one of his business loans. I helped him cover rent after his second company closed. I even found him a stable job through one of my business contacts. He always promised, I'll pay you back someday. I always smiled. Take care of yourself first. I never expected the money back. Family isn't a business transaction, or at least, that's what I believed. One evening, Liam called me. His voice sounded different. Ethan, can we meet? We met at a small coffee shop downtown. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. I proposed to Emma last week. I smiled. Congratulations. She said yes. For a brief moment, he smiled too. Then his expression changed. I don't know how I'm going to pay for the wedding. He stared at the table. I've already lost my savings. I can't ask Emma's parents for help. I don't want her to know how bad things really are. For the first time in years, I saw my younger brother put his pride aside. I don't want to disappoint her. Those words stayed with me because I knew he truly loved Emma. Before leaving, he quietly said, if I have to, I'll cancel the wedding. That night, I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I called the wedding planner whose name Liam had mentioned. Hello, my name is Ethan Brooks. I'd like to pay for my brother's wedding. There was silence on the other end. I'm sorry. Did you say the entire wedding? Yes. But I have one condition. I don't want him to know. The planner sounded surprised. You want to stay anonymous? Exactly. If he asks, tell him an anonymous family sponsor covered the costs. She paused for a moment, then softly replied, I've planned weddings for 20 years. I've never seen anyone do something like this. I smiled. It's not for recognition. It's for my brother. Over the next 8 months, I secretly paid every invoice, the venue, the flowers, the photographer, the live band, even the honeymoon in Italy. Every payment came from my account. Liam never suspected a thing. Every time he thanked the anonymous sponsor, I simply smiled and changed the subject. I honestly believed the happiest moment would be seeing my little brother marry the woman he loved. I had no idea that on his wedding day, he was about to embarrass me in front of hundreds of strangers. 8 months passed faster than I expected. Every week, the wedding planner emailed me another invoice, the venue, the catering, the wedding cake, the orchestra. Every time, I quietly paid the bill, without my brother ever knowing. Sometimes I wondered if I should tell him, but then I imagined the relief on his face when he believed a miracle had happened. That was enough for me. The wedding day finally arrived. The ceremony was being held at one of the most beautiful hotels in Boston. Crystal chandeliers, fresh white roses, a string quartet playing softly in the background. Everything looked perfect, exactly as Emma had dreamed. I arrived early, not as the groom's brother, but wearing a simple black suit with no expensive watch or designer accessories. I never liked drawing attention to myself. The wedding planner greeted me with a smile. "Mr. Brooks, everything is ready." "Thank you." I quietly nodded. "No one knows?" She smiled. "Your secret is safe." Many of them were Emma's relatives. Others were Liam's new friends. Most of them came from wealthy families. Luxury watches, designer dresses, sports cars parked outside. As I walked toward the reception area, I noticed Liam talking proudly with a group of businessmen. The moment he saw me, he waved me over. "There he is." I smiled. Maybe he wanted to introduce me as his brother. Instead, he placed a hand on my shoulder and laughed. "Oh, don't worry about him. He's just my driver." The group burst into laughter. One man joked, "You've got a loyal employee." Another added, "You should give him a raise." Liam laughed with them. He didn't correct them. He didn't say, "This is my brother." He simply let them believe I worked for him. For a second, I thought he was joking. Then he looked directly at me. "Could you grab my car keys? My phone's inside." His tone wasn't playful. It sounded like an order. The room fell silent. Everyone waited to see what I would do. I reached into my pocket, pulled out his keys, and handed them to him. "Here you go." He smiled. "Thanks." Then turned his back and continued talking to his guests, as if I didn't exist. A few minutes later, Emma walked over. She looked stunning in her wedding dress. "Ethan, I'm so happy you came." She gave me a warm hug. Then she whispered, "Liam told me you've helped him a lot." I smiled. "He deserves a happy day." She looked confused. "I still can't believe that anonymous sponsor paid for everything. I wish I knew who they were." "So do I quietly replied. The ceremony was beautiful. Emma couldn't stop smiling. Liam looked happier than I'd seen him in years. Watching them exchange vows, I reminded myself why I'd done all this. Not for recognition, not for praise, for family. After the ceremony, the reception began. Music filled the ballroom. Guests laughed. Champagne glasses clinked together. Then, the master of ceremonies stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, before dinner, we'd like to invite the groom to say a few words." The room erupted in applause. Liam walked onto the stage with a glass of champagne. He thanked Emma, her parents, his friends, the wedding planner, even the hotel staff. Then he smiled proudly. "And, finally, I'd like to thank everyone who helped make this luxury wedding possible." I quietly looked down at my plate. No one knew, and that was fine. Or so I thought. Liam raised his glass. "Especially the anonymous sponsor." The audience applauded. He laughed. "Whoever you are, you've got great taste." More laughter echoed through the ballroom. Then he looked across the room. His eyes landed on me and my driver for getting me here on time. The room exploded with laughter again. Someone even started clapping. I forced a smile, but inside, something broke. Not because he didn't know I had paid for everything, but because, even believing I was just an ordinary driver, he thought I deserved to be humiliated. At that exact moment, the wedding planner slowly stood up from her table. Her face had turned pale. She looked from Liam to me, as if she had just realized a secret she had promised to keep was about to come out. The wedding planner slowly stood up. She looked terrified. For a few seconds, she simply stood there, frozen. I quietly shook my head. A silent message. "Don't say anything." She understood and slowly sat back down. The reception continued. Music started playing again. Guests returned to their conversations. But something had changed. The planner kept glancing at me. She knew the truth, and I could tell. Keeping it inside was becoming impossible. About 20 minutes later, a waiter accidentally spilled red wine on Liam's tuxedo. "Oh no!" the guests gasped. Emma quickly handed him a napkin. "I'll go clean this up." Liam hurried toward the groom's suite upstairs. The photographer followed him. Several family members went too. The ballroom suddenly became much quieter. That's when the hotel manager approached the wedding planner. I need the payment confirmation. The accounting department is closing. She nodded and reached into her folder. Without realizing it, one document slipped onto the floor. The manager picked it up. His eyes widened. Wait, this invoice says, paid in full by Ethan Brooks. The planner immediately reached for the paper. Please, give that back. But it was too late. One of Emma's uncles had already seen it. What did you just say? The manager looked confused. The wedding. It was paid for by Mr. Ethan Brooks. Silence. The uncle frowned. I thought an anonymous sponsor paid for everything. The manager smiled politely. I assumed Mr. Brooks was the anonymous sponsor. The planner closed her eyes. She knew the secret was gone. Within seconds, people started whispering. Did he say Ethan? The groom's brother? I thought Liam paid for this. No. I heard he was just the driver. The whispers spread across the ballroom like wildfire. Emma overheard them. She walked over to the planner. Excuse me. Who paid for our wedding? The planner hesitated. She looked at me. I slowly nodded. It's okay. She took a deep breath. Mr. Ethan Brooks. He paid every invoice. The venue. The flowers. The catering. The photographer. The honeymoon. Everything. Emma stared at her, unable to speak. Tears immediately filled her eyes. No. There has to be some mistake. The planner quietly handed her the payment records. Every invoice carried the same name, Ethan Brooks. Every receipt, every signature, every payment. Emma covered her mouth. Oh my God. Just then, Liam walked back into the ballroom. His tuxedo was clean. He smiled. What did I miss? No one answered. The room was completely silent. Emma slowly turned toward him, holding the invoices in her hands. Liam, did you know? He looked confused. Know what? She held up the papers. Ethan paid for our entire wedding. His smile disappeared instantly. What? He grabbed the invoices. His eyes moved from page to page. His face turned pale. This can't be right. The planner quietly replied, It is. You asked me not to reveal the sponsor. I honored that promise, but the documents were accidentally seen. Liam looked at me. His lips trembled. You paid for all of this? I didn't answer, because I didn't need to. The documents had already answered for me. Then Emma asked the question that shattered the entire room. If Ethan paid for everything, she looked directly into Liam's eyes. Why did you tell everyone? He was just your driver. The ballroom became so quiet. You could hear the air conditioning for the first time that day. Liam had no joke, no excuse, no smile, only regret. Every guest, every friend, every member of our family was waiting to hear his answer. The silence inside the ballroom felt heavier than the music had ever been. No one moved. No one spoke. Emma stood in front of Liam, still holding the invoices. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Answer me. Why did you tell everyone Ethan was your driver? Liam opened his mouth. Nothing came out. For the first time in his life, his confidence had disappeared. Finally, he looked at me. I didn't think. He stopped because there was nothing he could say that would make it better. Emma took another step closer. Did you know Ethan paid for everything? He slowly nodded. I knew someone had paid, but I never imagined it was him. She stared at him in disbelief. So even if he really had been just a driver, you still thought it was okay to humiliate him? Liam lowered his head. I was trying to impress my friends. One of those same friends stood up from his table. A businessman named Daniel. He shook his head. So, you embarrassed your own brother. Just to make us think you were important? Liam couldn't answer. Another guest quietly added, I thought Ethan was the only genuine person here. The whispers returned. Only this time, they weren't about me. They were about Liam. My mother slowly walked toward me. Her eyes were filled with tears. Ethan, why didn't you tell us? I smiled gently. Because I didn't pay for the wedding to be thanked. I paid because Liam loved Emma. And I wanted them to have the wedding they dreamed of. Mom began crying. I never knew. You've always carried this family. Dad stood frozen. Then, without saying a word, he walked over to me. In front of more than 200 guests, he placed his hand on my shoulder. I'm ashamed. I spent years believing success was about appearances. But today, you showed me what real success looks like." Those words meant more than he would ever know. Liam slowly walked toward me. His eyes were red. "I don't deserve your kindness." "No," I replied quietly. "You don't." The room became silent again. "But everyone deserves the chance to become better." He looked at me in disbelief. "I don't expect forgiveness." "I know. I only want to say, I'm sorry. For today. For every time I borrowed money and never thanked you. For pretending I was better than you. For treating you like you didn't matter." Tears rolled down his face. "I was jealous. I always thought people respected you because you had money. But today I realized they respect you because of the kind of man you are." Emma gently took my hand. "I'm so sorry. If I'd known the truth, I would have never allowed any of this to happen." I smiled. "This isn't your fault. You married the man you love. What he does after today will decide the rest of your lives." She nodded, then turned toward Liam. "You don't need to become rich. You need to become honest." The DJ quietly turned the music back on. Guests slowly returned to their tables, but something was different. People who had ignored me earlier now came over one by one, not because they had learned I was wealthy, but because they had seen my character. Daniel extended his hand. "I owe you an apology. I judged you without knowing you." I shook his hand. "It happens." He smiled. "I hope one day we can do business together." I laughed. "Maybe." Across the room, I noticed Liam watching everything. For the first time, he understood something money could never buy. Respect isn't demanded, it's earned. As the reception continued, he quietly walked onto the stage once more, picked up the microphone, and looked directly at every guest in the room. "I need to say something." His voice shook. "And this time, it'll be the truth." Liam stood on the stage. The microphone shook in his hands. For the first time, the room wasn't looking at him with admiration. They were looking at him, waiting to see whether he would finally tell the truth. He took a deep breath. "I owe everyone here an apology." The ballroom fell completely silent. I lied. "I told many of you that Ethan was just my driver." He looked directly at me. "But the truth is, he's my older brother. And this wedding," he paused, trying to hold back tears, "only happened because of him." A wave of whispers spread across the room. Liam continued, "I didn't pay for the venue. I didn't pay for the flowers. I didn't pay for the honeymoon. My brother paid for every single dollar. And I repaid him with humiliation." He lowered his head. "I've never been more ashamed of myself." For a few seconds, nobody clapped, nobody spoke. Then, an elderly guest slowly stood up. He began clapping. Another guest joined him, then another. Soon, the entire ballroom was applauding. Not for Liam, for honesty, for finally admitting the truth. Liam walked off the stage and stopped in front of me, without saying a word. He hugged me. It was the first genuine hug we'd shared in years. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I know 2 words can't erase what I did." "They can't," I replied honestly, "but they're a place to start." He nodded. "I'll pay you back." I smiled. "I don't want the money." He looked confused. "What do you want?" I looked him in the eyes. "Be the kind of husband Emma deserves, and the kind of man you can be proud of when you look in the mirror." He wiped away his tears. "I promise." A few minutes later, Dad walked over carrying 2 glasses of champagne. He handed one to me. "I spent years measuring success by money." He looked around the ballroom. "You taught me today that real wealth is measured by character." Mom quietly added, "We always praised the loudest person in the room, when we should have been appreciating the quiet one." I smiled. "We can't change the past, but we can choose what happens next." Later that evening, as the guests were leaving, Emma stopped me near the exit. She handed me a small envelope. "What's this?" "Open it tomorrow." The next morning, I found a handwritten letter inside. It read, "Dear Ethan, thank you for giving us a wedding we'll remember for the rest of our lives. Not because it was beautiful, but because it taught us the value of humility, gratitude, and family. Liam and I have decided to repay every dollar, not because you asked us to, but because it's the right thing to do. More importantly, we promise to spend the rest of our lives earning back your trust. With love, Emma and Liam, I folded the letter and placed it in my desk drawer, not because of the money, but because it reminded me of something my father finally understood. Respect isn't bought with expensive suits, or luxury weddings, or impressive titles. It's earned by the way you treat people when they have nothing to offer you. And that was the greatest wedding gift any of us received.